us today. Last time we looked at what happened when Solomon became the king over God's people. Solomon was a young man at the time, and he asked God for one thing. Do you remember what that one thing was? That's right, he asked God for wisdom. God made Solomon one of the wisest people the world has ever known. In fact, many of Solomon's wise sayings were collected and written down in the book of Proverbs. These Proverbs are really helpful for us today. They can help us make the wise choice and get in the habit of living God's way. For example, listen to Solomon's words from Proverbs 22, verse 3. Wise people see danger and go to a safe place, but childish people keep going and suffer for it. Did you catch that? Let me read it again. Wise people see danger and go to a safe place, but childish people keep going and suffer for it. I know I want to be wise. I know I want to be safe instead of putting myself in danger. But what does that really look like for us today? Let's look at some situations together. I want you to see if you can spot the danger that could happen if we keep going the wrong way, and how we can choose to be safe instead. In this first scene, we've got two brothers who want to play video games after school. But just before Mom starts her video call for work, she tells them that they are supposed to take 15 minutes to finish their homework before they play. When you think about this situation, what could the boys do that might not be a not so wise idea? What kind of danger do you think that might cause? You're right, that's definitely not the way we want things to go, is it? So how can we avoid making such an unwise choice? How can we remember to make the wise choice instead? Well, we can do what Solomon said. See danger and go to a safe place. That doesn't necessarily mean that we get up and go somewhere. It means that we could see what could go wrong and we could avoid that by doing what we know is right. Think of it this way. We stop and think, then we act. So how do you think these brothers could do something differently if they decided to stop, think, then act? You're right. They could probably listen to their mom, do what she said, get their homework done before playing video games. And what would happen? They'd get their homework done. Their mom would know she could trust them. So let's look at one more example. In this scenario, we've got three girls who are outside for recess. They're getting along and having a great time until two of the girls start whispering to each other and leave the other girl out. The girl who is left out gets more and more frustrated and angry. It's definitely an unwise choice to talk about someone else like that. What kind of danger do you think this might cause? You're right. The girl would probably feel sad, and she might get angry at her friends and say something mean to get back at them. She might talk about them to other kids in the class. Nobody wants that to happen. So how can we avoid that kind of trouble? What can we do instead? We can stop and think before we act. Let's think about the girls who whispered about their friend. What could they do differently? Absolutely. Of course, this kind of thing can happen to any one of us. We can end up hurting each other's feelings when we don't mean to. In those times, it's important that we say we're sorry and do whatever we can do to make things right. But isn't it so much better when we stop and think first so that we treat each other with kindness right from the start? Talk about a wise choice. Remember what Solomon said. Wise people see danger and go to a safe place, but childish people keep going and suffer for it. You see, God created each of us with the ability to make the wise choice with the wisdom we have from Him. We can stop and think first before we act. That way we can see danger coming and we can do whatever it takes to avoid it. Think before you act. You'll be so glad that you did. Of course, that's not always easy to do. We can forget to stop and think it over, especially if we feel angry, frustrated, or upset. But remember, God is always there to help us. We can talk to Him and ask Him to give us the wisdom we need. It can also help to think about Jesus. Think about what He would do in the same situation. How would He show love? How would He show people how important and valuable they are, even when it's tough? With God's help, we can get in the habit of stopping to think before we act. And we can ask each other for help too. Goodbye, everyone.